extremity injuries at the Movement Performance Institute in Los Angeles with Dr. Chris Powers. His passion is improving return to sport standards and decreasing re-injury rates. Thanks for being here, John.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, guys. Just to get a feel for the room, who do we have healthcare-wise? So PTs, athletic trainers, strength and conditioning coaches. Okay, what's the rest of the room? Who did I not catch? Stats, okay.
Educator.
Okay.
Marketing.
Okay, nice. Well, thank you guys for joining. It's good. We'll have a little mix here. So just a little background on myself. So I'm from the Green Bay area. I've been a physical therapist now for 12 years. I've been with Bellin for 11 of that. And really the one thing that's always been my passion that to me has always been the hardest thing to master is when it's really safe to get people back to sport. I was going to focus a little bit on injury prevention, but honestly, Joe, that will be here in the next two, I think is going to touch on that a lot more than I can. So I'll actually stay a little bit away from that, especially with the time being short. I don't want to rush anything. But I think there's a massive amount of overlap. You're doing the same things, whether it be for rehabbing and obviously preventing injuries as far as from an assessment standpoint in my mind. So we'll kind of touch on a little bit of both. I had multiple injuries. I was a multiple patellar subluxer, went through multiple years of rehab. That really kind of led me to what I'm doing now. And to me, it was the really, I guess, nervousness of, am I really safe and ready to go back is what was my experience as an athlete, and honestly what still makes my mind race as a PT today, and definitely what my niche is and what my passion is. So just to get into a little bit of what I hope to kind of cover today. Big thing for me, to me what analytics really means is just collecting as much data as possible to make better decisions. And obviously we'll go through it, hopefully that's pretty clear. And then really how I'm using technology to get that data. That otherwise was very hard, otherwise it's my opinion. It's just a clinical expertise, just opinion, which we're finding more and more, especially in my world of insurance companies, they don't care what I think, they want hard numbers. So, and then obviously how do we harness technology in a clinical setting that's really appealing to everyone. So why is this important? To me, these numbers, when I look these up to try to get the most recent numbers, it's crazy. 1/3 of the 30 million athletes will get a visit, go in to actually have an office visit, which means they're not just going to let it work itself out, they're actually seeking a visit to do it. That's a lot of people, and obviously the people in our field realize, we think as especially we get into the injury prevention world, in a way it's kind of like, man, that's kind of maybe a bad business plan for me, I'm taking patients away from myself, but it's amazing how much more injuries there are. And in my opinion, traditional ways of rehabbing and prevention maybe traditionally really wasn't even around, it's not really what we were calling it, but we really haven't seen a big decrease in injury rates traditionally. So in my mind, this was my experience, so and don't get me wrong, I'm from this area, I'm not saying this is how it's done everywhere, but in the physicians that I've worked with, in my experience, it's been long enough, you look good, let's ease back into it, okay? And maybe they were given some sort of return to basketball program, which was a 3-page, these are exercises that look like exercises you do or drills you do those for 2 weeks, and one physician that we work with, and then let's do 1-on-1, then you can do 2-on-2, then you can do 3, and then just go full bore. And there's really no rhyme or reason, it's just time. It's a timeline is really how they're making the decisions. And then maybe with Biodex being around for a while, the BTEs, that's technically old school, it's definitely making a comeback because it's so quantitative, but strength testing was something like, well, they're strong, so they're ready. And a lot of it was, again, just how the patient felt. And again, those things are very, very hard to measure. My experiences personally, again, in the early 2000s when I started practicing, for me it was more of 8 weeks, therapy was done. So we were done, no matter what you had, if you were a scope, you're an ACL, anything, at 8 weeks, it's over. Send them on to an athletic trainer or have them on their own, get them on a home exercise program. In the physician's office, they would do the rest of the progressions, whether it be jumping, running, and then finally return to sport. Finally, in the late 2000s, this drove me nuts, by the way, absolutely not. It's kind of like there's no way I should be done with this person. In the late 2000s, for me anyways, we started kind of grinding on more and more of like, we've got to find a way to get more information to our physicians to make better decisions. In our clinical setting, we were seeing too many re-tear rates specifically. We kind of used the elephant in the room of the ACL, but even general knee scopes, like too many people coming back with another scope or general patellofemoral pain, and they're coming back in my world. It's kind of like, man, what are we missing? Why aren't we seeing them all the way through? That's when all of a sudden there was a lot of research coming out about limb symmetry. So we started looking at different hop tests. So I think we did 6 different hop tests when that stuff came out. We tried it. The problem was, at that time, there was no normative data. So we are making a massive assumption that the other leg is normal, right? And we still saw the same amount of injuries, re-tear rates and things. Our number really didn't move significantly. And that, honestly, it drove me insane. Again, it felt like failure to me. How are we seeing these same kids over and over and over again? So for me, what really kind of was open-eyed, anybody who hasn't been to a Chris Powers course, you know, he kind of gets the stigma as, oh, he's all about the glute, when really it's much bigger than that. He's really all about movement. He's a movement guy. So his background, just real quick here, is he is a PT by trade who got burned out very fast, who loved research, went back, got his PhD in biomechanics, and now runs the biomechanics lab at USC, okay? So with that though, he loved all the toys he had in his biomechanics lab and said, why can't we just take these things and put them in a clinical setting? Now the largest barrier is they're very costly, okay? But what we're finding is with the gains of just basic technology, there's a lot of things we can do in the clinic that can help you make much, much better decisions. So this led us to, we came back from that course going, man, we should just start doing stuff with iPads in the clinic and just start doing something. But it was very manually intensive, but at least we were being a little bit more quantitative. We were able to measure things. So we started with iPads and just used a free app called Coach's Eye. We watched it, we could draw angles in the app, and at least we're getting numbers of what is their actual hip flexion, what is their actual knee flexion, you know, are they absorbing? We can't really measure shock absorption as much as going based on a feel of how much depth do they have, how long did they landed, very subjective obviously, that way. And then we started going, I went to my boss and said, man, let's make the investment. Let's go after a system that is gonna allow us to be more efficient, but actually be even more quantitative and get more data. So this is also hard in smaller settings because obviously cost becomes an issue, but we use high-speed cameras with a semi-software system out of Germany that allows us to, it'll give us live angles, it allows us to copy paste easier, make reports, and do things that are much more, makes us more efficient. I can get this visit done in an hour and they're getting something leaving within their hands. We use EMG. EMG in my day, sometimes I don't realize how old I'm getting. The EMG I use in school all had leads. And there's no way you could use that in a clinic, it'd be a massive trip hazard. Now it's amazing the EMG that's out there right now that's all wireless. You can literally just pick it up, place it in another place, it's ready to go. So we use that. We do have a Biodex machine. It's still extremely time consuming, but it's still nice having that other piece of the puzzle of truly getting with the normative data that's out there, having some strength measurements. And then we open a new clinic in 2 weeks. I was just telling Joe here that, and we're putting force plates in the floor. So again, I realize this is not something like, oh great, so I just go to my boss and say I need about 500 grand and I'm good to go. I realize that I'm spoiled. But these are things that I do think this is where it's going, that we foresee ourselves becoming more of a testing facility, not even just a rehab facility because of that. So kind of the basis of how we got there, why we did this, is really, in my mind, there's 4 categories of injury. I cannot change someone structurally. I would never want to try. I'm definitely not going to try to change somebody hormonally. But biomechanically and neuromuscularly, this is the basis of the way I treat people, okay? This is where we have to get people better. And I think you could put even a piece in there, even psychologically, but from what I can do on a day-to-day basis, these are my 2. So the big kind of patterns I look for, and again, for me, we're going to kind of focus on the lower extremity today. Knee valgus, hip internal rotation, hip adduction. Really those 3, you really can almost think of as one big movement together. And then really the poor shock absorption. So a lot of the research that we see as far as definitely the elephant room was ACL. But if you look at a lot of the research of patellofemoral pain, it's the same mechanisms of injury as ACL. And patellofemoral pain is way more prevalent than ACL. And maybe, I don't think it's really like a calling sign of, well, if you have patellofemoral pain, you're gonna tear your ACL. I don't. At the same time, you're stressing your knee in the same mechanical fashion. I'm a classic example. To sublux my kneecap, I had to have been getting in that position. Why didn't I tear my ACL and why did I dislocate my kneecap instead? This is where everybody is structurally a little bit different, but at the same time, the mechanism is the same. This is the piece to me that has been missing. Not enough people are really looking at the way people are moving. I think it's becoming more prevalent, but I still see this a ton, and especially as far as return to sport. If they're still falling in the same movement patterns as before, have we really got them, have we really taken away the biggest risk factor of what may have got them in the first place? So I try to talk about patellofemoral pain as much as possible, because even with our own staff, I go to different clinics where they maybe see 1 ACL every quarter, and I'm seeing, I have 12 on my caseload today, and they go, well, I don't really see that many ACLs, but this was a nice presentation. It's the same mechanism of injury. So I try to talk about this as much as possible, but when you think about the patellofemoral joint itself, a lot of research has talked about kind of the surface contact area, right? So the more neutral, so think about that kneecap rise where the whole leg is in neutral, the hip is controlling your leg in neutral. And when we get off to the side, or when that whole femur actually rotates, especially with a fixed foot, the patella gradually makes its way laterally, and now our surface area is much smaller. The idea is laying on a bed of nails. You lay on a bed of nails, how is that not a problem? Yet you land one nail and it pierces right through you. You're distributing that force over a bigger area. And to me, this is why I think neutral mechanics at the knee is so important, okay? So I know people will be like, man, it was only a little valgus. It's like, I know, but it's a massive issue if it's patellofemoral injury. To me, this is the biggest way I've gotten people with patellofemoral pain better versus just, hey, let's just get them stronger. You gotta teach them how to move neutrally. Traditional ways of treating a patellofemoral patient would be like, hey, I think you just gotta pound that VMO, and that'll bring that patella over, and that'll keep them neutral. And there's been so much, there's been dynamic kind of X-ray and MRI, different studies that have shown that it's not really the patella that's moving as much as the femur underneath it. So the VMO is not as big a player as we thought it was. That we need, and of course we'll just rest it and immobilize it. And then a lot of our physicians, especially primary care, is, you know, I have a stress fracture. Okay, let's get you off your feet for a good 4 to 6 weeks. And they come back to the visit, how you doing? Great. All right, take it easy, but get back and running over the next 2 weeks. It's like, are you kidding me? You didn't teach them anything of why they got hurt in the first place. These are just traditional ways that have to change. When you really look at the biggest ways of treating it, we want to decrease that lateral directed force. We got to control the Q angle, we got to decrease quadriceps dominance, we got to maximize the patellofemoral contact area. That's all glute. That's hips, that's rotation. The quads have no rotational control, right? So this is where, again, where I know Powers especially takes a lot of crap for being on, everybody thinks I'm just about the glute, but the problem is that it's our main rotator controller, right? So when we look at it, this is the same thing. People have excessive hip intrarotation that have patellofemoral pain, and these studies were able to show that. The glute is going to help you get you out of that internal rotation moment, right? Changing Q angle, chip and hip adduction, that's all glute. So when you look, that's why it all comes back to me is, that's the core. You know, the people that think the core is just abs, you're missing out big time. It absolutely has to be the glutes, and really get people to understand they've got to feel themselves firing that muscle. It's amazing how many times we'll put EMG on glute and quad and just have them do basic exercises, and how unbelievably quad dominant people are. Now, certain sports like gymnastics is a classic one where you have to scale this a little bit. You know, we tell our gymnasts, like, man, we'd really like you to get lower. Well, they lose points if they get too low in their landing. So we have to scale things, right? A volleyball player that is a blocker, she gets too low, she touches the net. That's not going to work. So we do have to scale things, but there's different things you could do to get them to fire those hips a little bit harder. And I'm not saying we don't want quad strength. We want more uniform strength. And that's the piece to me that we miss. The biggest thing in my world, though, and this is when mainly the fight I have with our physicians, but they're really strong, so they're fine. It's like that's not the only piece. Just because you're strong doesn't mean you even know how to move either. It just means you might have the strength available, doesn't mean you know how to use it. And that's probably the number one thing I see as well. These studies, my favorite about these were they really showed that just changing the way people moved changed the way muscles fire. So again, that way of, as we change the way people move, they're going to be starting using different muscles. If I have somebody who's crazy weak in their glutes and I start changing the way they move to be more hip dominant, if they're not ready for that, I'm setting them up to fail as well, right? So we've got to make sure that not only do we change the way they move, but also get them to understand that we got to get you strong there now. Now you know how to move, great, we got the muscle fire, now we got to get you the strength to keep it going. So this is actually one of our interns, just so I could have some videos. He's actually an ex-Marine. He has no issues. He had sat in our clinic for 6 months, every day watching us doing tests, knowing that knees coming in is bad, knowing all those things, and honestly thought, yeah, I killed that. I nailed that. And his knee was completely collapsing in every time. So this is a kid that literally watched it every day, knew it, yeah, I'm not going to do that, and yet his knee was falling in. So this is actually my current clinic where we obviously don't have a force plate, so we're just drawing these things, but this is how we've tried to take, being quantitative, we measure right on the screen with this so we can see if they fall in, and actually made it as quantitative possible as we can to say neutral is best. We want you neutral. Now, we can sit and argue all day as far as, well, is that actually ideal? We got to start somewhere, right? So a lot of this comes from, look, we're seeing people with bad shock absorption, meaning less than 30 degrees of hip flexion or knee flexion when they land. We're seeing a lot of injuries with that. It's a lot of force. 3 times your body weight every time you hit the floor when you run. Imagine what it is. I can't stand it being at basketball tournaments and listening to kids do these loud jump stops. You're talking 5, 6, 7 times your body weight now. And that's why I think part of the issue, I think, really honestly, is where we start seeing more injuries. We do with running as well. With running, we're actually able to put a tracking system on them so we can get live joint angles and then play this back frame by frame and already have it. We do it from all 3 sides and really are able to piece it together. This gal had a Achilles repair, and she thought, oh, start over here, sorry about that. Achilles repair, and she thought she was doing great, and we found out that she completely kept collapsing. She was crazy late with push-off on one side, which might have been a reason why she's been having some knee pain. But she's, honestly, I tried looking for things with the eye. She's running at about a 7-minute pace. She's flying, I can't see it. It moves too fast, I can't see it. So these are where even your iPad goes 40 frames per second. You can catch a lot, and this is where even your phones, I mean now, honestly God, there's a lot of times I just use the patient's phone because I want them to take it home with them and watch it. So we break this down. The nice thing about this is where it makes us more efficient. It's plopping things right into a report. They're leaving with something in their hands, which is great, but we get a ton of stuff from it. We actually took this, the one thing that in the analytics world that I wasn't ready for is just information overload. The initial report had 4 times as much information on it. It's like, I don't even know what to do with all this information. Let's just go with what we think we need, and we don't want to overwhelm our patients either, otherwise they're not coming back. So this is what we use for our return to sport testing. So we do a step down, a drop jump, a lateral shuffle, decels to plant and back pedal, triple hop and cutting. And where this came from was really, Powers tried to develop and try to break down the majority of sports where he was seeing a lot of injuries, trying to mimic what do all those movements come down to, okay? He had one study presented where an average soccer player changes direction 673 times in one game. One game. Just opportunity, right? So this is where it was, how many times in soccer do you exactly cut at 90 degrees? Maybe not. But are you cutting? Yes. So at least it's something where we can say we're assessing the movements. We can use this as a pass-fail. I use this more as just a tool of, you've just got to learn what you're doing and how we have to start looking at that this is not good and we have to teach you how to move again. Prevention, just one slide. We did it actually with 2 of our local high schools. We did injury prevention. We did that test with 75 athletes, and then we collect every time anybody visits our athletic trainer. It's measured. We saw a 35% decrease in overall visits to the athletic training room. We saw they went from having 4 ACL tears in the 2 previous years each to none. Now, again, you can argue that it goes in cycles and these different things, but at the same time, not one kid on varsity in soccer and basketball missed a game. That's all the coach cared about, right? He had every kid available. And they went on to one of the teams we worked with, ended up, who was a very average team, the next year went to the state championship game in soccer. And I really honestly believe it was part of just everyone was available. The movement patterns, again, that matter the most. This obviously, I'm sure at some point everybody's seen RG3 do his triple jump or the vertical jump. This is again where he'd already had 1 ACL tear at this point. And again, in a way, it kind of proves to me that no one really ever watched him move. Like it was all about just, hey, he got his power back. He's really strong, right? That's all that matters. It's also insane to me that from that position, he jumped almost 40 inches. That's insane. So it also makes you wonder, like, God, it's just amazing how we can compensate. But again, things I'm looking for, we touched on this a little bit. Hip stability and knee valgus. What that is for me, again, is just looking at, if you're looking to draw somebody as a stick figure, this is the easiest way I explain it to my patients. Am I drawing you knock-kneed? Am I drawing you bull-legged? Or am I drawing that leg straight? I want your leg straight from the front, okay? So both these girls have a different one. The girl on the right, I'd say her knees are kissing. We obviously don't want that. And obviously the girl on the left, the right knee especially, is actually truly caving in. That's an automatic. Usually when I'll see this, we actually don't even do the rest of the tests because I don't want somebody getting injured in my clinic saying, okay, we're stopping right there. We actually have enough already. Step down, this is the step down looking at pelvic drop. This is huge with our runners with IT band syndrome. If you think about the way the IT band runs on the outside of the leg, you drop the pelvis on one side and the knee caves in, you're completely overstretching that IT band, okay? So we can sit and stretch and foam roll that IT band all day long, but until we fix this, we're still gonna have a problem, right? So that's why we're looking at that. Trunk stability can lead to a lot of, she's gotta compensate underneath it. This is actually a very good picture of shock absorption. What we're really looking for is we want to get to at least that 60 degree. And then obviously looking at, are they quad dominant or the hip dominant? And this is honestly really just more than anything, it's just pure physics. Of if her trunk's upright and she lets that knee come forward and that heel pop up, when you look at just overall vectors, The vector to that knee is massive, the vector to the hip is small. So the amount of work, the amount of power, she's gonna rely on her quads, right? So again, this kind of goes back to the biomechanical and neuromuscular. That's why these are chosen. But again, overall, to me, what I kind of want to hopefully come back to is there's an immense amount of studies now on return to sport of what battery tests are best, okay? People love the hop test, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, limb symmetry is maybe not the greatest because the other leg, and all of a sudden now we have normative data for limb symmetry. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, what should a person be able to triple hop? So maybe now we can look at the other leg and go, well, they're within 90% of the other leg, but they're not even close to what an athlete should be. And the nice part is the normative data is on athletes. It's not just people off the street, they're collegiate athletes. So that's great. But there's also a lot of tests that say you just need to have multiple tests. And that's what the last couple kind of talked about. It's not even so much that one test's the best, as much as you've got to look at things from multiple aspects. You got to look at strength, you got to look at the way people move, and then you got to look at how are they back to the other leg? Are they a symmetrical athlete? Otherwise, you'll always compensate with the other side. So as technology really advances, it's going to keep going. You know, like we talked about even the slow-mo version on the new iPhones. Now you are getting up to 100 to 120 frames on that when it's in that mode. That's fantastic for anybody in clinical setting that's like, I can't. You know what I mean? There's no way I'm going to be able to get those funds. You have that available to you. EMG, a two lead EMG where it's just two pieces, are $2 to $4 grand. And to me, it's my favorite toy. I use that even more than I do the video, honestly, because it's so powerful for patients to see what muscles they're using when and when they're not using them, and really see things change. That's huge for me. All you need is a display, put it on. A laptop, a TV, doesn't matter, because now actually the newest one's coming out, they're Bluetooth. So you could even just have it on an iPad. You don't have to have a USB port. But we need to continue to look at our return to sport things. It's amazing, if any of you work with orthopedic surgeons, go ask them what their ACL retail rate is. They have no idea. They have no clue. So the hard part is for them to really say, do I need to make changes? Is anything getting better or worse? They really don't know. Because a lot of them will say, well, no one re-tears, because if they do, they usually don't come back. So I don't know. All mine do great, you know? And the hard part is that we're gonna have to be the ones, we have to be the ones that get them information to make a safer decision. I always have to look, I look at every one of my athletes as my kid. If my kid was going back, are they really ready? You know, there's an immense amount of data of, you go back before 6 months, the re-tear rates are higher. Almost it doesn't even matter how good your care is. Before 6 months, they're just, from that big of a thing, they're just not ready. But if we even back that up and look at patellofemoral pain, we look at runners with stress fractures, for whatever reason, I just feel like people think is faster is better. Now, if we get them back faster, that's better. And the hard part is coaches are, concussions helping here with all injuries, right? It's kind of bleeding over to everything. Maybe we should be rushing everything here. The hard part is you want your best players, you want to win. At the same time, no one's thinking about 10 years from now, right? No one's thinking about even our runners that we're pushing in high school. No one's thinking about those people 10 years from now. Are they able still to run and still enjoying it? Or did we just kill them and create all these bad patterns and here we sit? So for me, the biggest thing more than anything is just, I'm not saying what I do is great. I just know we've seen our drop go from the national rate of being 20 to 30% of re-tears, which is insane. You think about you have 3 ACLs in your room and one of them's going to re-tear, you know, within 2 years. That's ridiculous. We have followed every ACL that has taken our test and passed it for 2 years, and we have 3% re-tear. I don't think it's the test, personally. I think the test is a tool. I think the test is a tool for us to teach them that the way you move matters. And neutral mechanics matter. And what I really think the secret sauce is, I've interviewed every kid that re-tore, and all of them had the same thing. What did you get away from? The warm-up. I got away from my warm-up. You know, summer league's my favorite right now. You know, you look at high school games, they go through an elaborate warm-up, right? This elaborate warm-up. What's summer league? Well, game starts at 6, so I'll get there at like 5:55, because the court's not ready, I don't want to sit around, and we're just playing. Like, we don't even shoot around, we gotta stay on time, so here we go. And I think that's why we see so many injuries. I really think the warm-up is the secret sauce. Now, don't get me wrong, you have to have the right strength training, you have to have the right program to supplement that, but when you look at a lot of the injury prevention of the last 10 years ago, like the PET program, I don't know if you know that, when you look at those things, it was a warm-up, right? And making them aware of, yeah, when you're doing this stuff, don't let your knee fall in, don't land loud. It was really basic, global teaching, education pieces of making people understand that the way you move actually matters. I think everybody today understands, like, so if I'm stronger, that's better. I don't think it's hard to get people to buy into that. Like, yeah, I get that. I should be stronger. That'll make me a better athlete. But I don't think the majority of people really truly believe that the way they move matters. And we're not teaching people how at a young age. You know, we have people come in, We did 350 runners assessments this past year. And every single one of them asked, did anyone teach you how to run at a young age? Like teach you proper form? No. Anyone teach you how to jump? No, I just started and that's what I came up with. And then I really think around late elementary, early middle school, you start forming hard movement patterns, you are ingraining those hard, and the longer we wait, the harder they are to change, right? This is truly changing the brain. You know, my favorite weekend that I went out to LA, it was a 6-month course. My favorite time I went out there was actually the head of neurology came and talked about learning, of how to actually get somebody to learn something. That was my favorite weekend. Actually, more than all the technology stuff was just how can I get people to learn and keep moving correctly, or what I teach them to keep doing. That was my favorite weekend. And like she said, she's like, you are actually changing someone's movement pattern. Like the way they throw, the way they walk. That's neurological. That's not only physical, that's truly neurological. Those are movement patterns that they've ingrained and reinforced for years. So, any questions? We've got, I definitely don't want to run to the next one. We've got about 5 minutes. Yeah?
I got 2. Have you ever used the FMS to collect data on the return to play protocol?
So we started there with our hop test. We did the FMS with it. And my only issue with it is, I don't know, in my mind, it is great for the active adult. I think it's also great to catch, I think it's awesome for catching immobility problems, which at the base, I think can lead to a lot of injuries, no doubt. If you find out, like, I had no idea I was so tight in especially my hips and my back, whatever, it's gonna catch that. So we've actually changed, we actually do FMS on every single person that joins our fitness center, is what we've changed to. I think it's better than nothing, okay? But I don't think it is going to truly be able to catch and truly predict athletes, because there's no impact, there's no change of direction. And I get it, it's meant to be a quick and simple, anybody can buy it, anybody can do it, so it's still better than nothing. But I still struggle with, does it really, should be used as a return to sport tool? As a screening tool, especially, again, flexibility is one of the most underrated things. It absolutely catches that. I think it's fantastic, and that's why we kept it in our system. We just changed to using it with our athletes to using it with our active population in our fitness centers.
And then the second one, once the athlete has returned to play, do you think we should be monitoring workload volumes?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I think there's a presentation this afternoon about even looking at the analytics of that. We had a kid from locally that is playing at Madison, and he came home and I picked his brain. He was talking about how much analytics is happening when he's even just squatting. If they have stuff that's measuring every rep and his workload and all those things. It's amazing the gains of technology, and I think the Packers even wore something that was measuring overall exertion. I forget what they were using. At least they're looking at something that maybe we're overworking our athletes. I did a presentation a couple months ago about sports specialization. But at the root of it, it's just completely just comes down to overwork, right? You talk about your, Madison just had a article that came out of trying to come up with guidelines of what should we use to protect our kids, and they're trying to come up with the idea of don't work out more hours than the years you are old, right? So a 17-year-old shouldn't be working out more than 17 hours in a week. Is that automatic? No, but it's a nice loose thing, and you ask them, your athletes. I had one, that she's in for something different every year. She's at 24 hours and she's 16 years old. You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe that's part of the problem. Get her to change that, and she ended up staying healthy for her senior year. So is that the only thing that changed? No, but I absolutely think we have to find ways of also looking at it. The hard part is, as sports specialization comes more and more, these coaches want these kids year round, and WI is even backing off on the rules in the state of Wisconsin anyways of how many times you're allowed to touch your athlete. So it's only gonna make it worse. Yeah?
Do you use any of these injury prevention stuff with chronic injuries and what you see?
So injury prevention to me, and Jill and I are talking about this, is this massive hole in the middle of there's performance over here, and there's I'm hurt, and then there's everything in between that. If you don't have pain, it's really hard for me to see you from an insurance standpoint, because I'm not going to make something up, right? I'm just going to go, yeah, you're really struggling in gym class, right? I'm not going to do that. At the same time, there's a lot of people that I don't think of myself as needing to get bigger, faster, stronger, but they need to be in this hole. So the same test that we do for return to sport, we do the exact same test for prevention. Exactly the same. So we treat all those athletes, and we start exactly the same. Where we go from there is different because they don't have pain. We can move along the process without a timeline in mind, obviously, but we do the exact same stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's your communication like? You said that you were at a college, you were at a high school. what kind of communication do you have with the athletic trainers and strength and conditioning staff in terms of the tests that they do and the type of protocols that they have?
So this is where I'm spoiled because we're in 27 schools. So the majority of students I'm seeing, I work with their athletic trainer. So I'm just picking up the phone and calling them and saying, hey, or I'm inviting them to their test. We'll have a lot of our athletic trainers come in-house and actually watch the test be done so we can communicate face-to-face. Again, this is where technology is awesome. I had a gal that came in for a runner's assessment yesterday. She's from O'Connell, which is an hour north of where I work. She FaceTimed with her trainer at the end so we could talk through everything so that they could. So I'm a big fan of, as many times as I can get a warm handoff, I'd rather. I'm not a huge note fan. I'll go in, especially with our physicians, I want to talk to them face-to-face about that because I don't want to lose. It's going to get lost in the middle, right? So I try to do as much as I can. If they're not even from our area or from our health system, I will call them because I want them to know what we did so they feel part of the team. It's not this political barrier, you know what I mean? Yeah.
You're collecting a lot of interesting data, and I'm curious in terms of opportunity for modeling. Do you have someone in-house that does any kind of statistical modeling and sort of stuff, or do you see opportunity where that would be
I do.
helpful?
Well, we were going to partner with Chris. Chris wanted to do a Movement Performance Institute in the Midwest. And the hard part is that right now it comes down to cost. I think we are going to go down. All he sees is an end number, right? He sees how many tests we did, and he's like, oh my God, that's 3 times the amount I did last year. And his head just explodes with the research ideas. The hard part is for one, is just he's in LA and we're here. We met with, I'm going to forget his first name. His last name is Bell, with Wisconsin. We met with him to say, hey, is there anything we can work together? We're not really in competing markets. Is there anything we do yet? We're in the state. And the hard part for him is he's like, I'm just a researcher, and there was a little bit of a barrier there too. So we definitely want to go down that road. So if you're interested, please reach out. Otherwise, one more, and then I don't want to cut into Matt's.
How'd you get connected with the Chris Powers?
I just went to a course. He came and we hosted a course, and then my mind raced, and then I looked and said, well, what else do you offer? And he was doing a 6-month kind of certification course of how to use technology to do it. I just jumped on it. So that's where I got from, and then just honestly just take him out to dinner and be like, I want to work with, we want to do more. Like, it's not so much about tell me everything you know as much as help us grow. We're not in competing markets. Absolutely, just networking. Yeah, otherwise, please, I know the contact information's in here, but please reach out. My new clinic opens up 2 weeks from yesterday. Come up in Green Bay and see us. We're in the new Titletown district right behind Lambeau. We got 20,000 square feet. We've got 10 systems that we talked about. It's gonna be a blast. Please come up. Otherwise, I don't want to cut into Matt's time. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.